All right, gather around, kids. It's story time. So, when I was a kid, I used to love this cartoon called Conan the Adventurer. It would come on when I was getting ready for school in the morning. I don't know exactly what time, but if I had to guess, it was 6 a.m. And the reason I know that is because my parents had to watch the news to get the weather forecast and the traffic conditions before we were allowed to watch cartoons while we were getting ready. And so I would always catch like the last 5 minutes of Conan. And basically that was enough for me to see whatever the final battle was, the lesson learned. And then I would try to piece together the rest of the episode by watching the slideshow during the end credits scene as they're rolling. So that's my memory of Conan. And so, imagine my surprise when I found out much later, like literally as an adult researching this video, that Conan has been around a very long time. Conan actually has a history that's longer than any superhero. And today, what I have in front of me are a bunch of stories featuring Conan from all across that history. This video, of course, being courtesy of Titan Comics, because that's who printed all of these books. So we're going to look at all of them. Some of these are available right now. Some of these will be available in the very near future. And hopefully all of them are exciting to you. By the way, my name is BJ Kicks, and this is Comics Are Dope. So again, I have to shout out Titan Comics for sending each of the books that we're going to talk about today. Because like I said, Conan's got a pretty long and storied history. He made his debut in 1931. A writer named Robert E. Howard was writing short stories in a magazine called Weird Tales. And like when I'm reading about this process, it kind of reminds me of like, I guess it's like the adult version of getting the newspaper and, parsing out the comic section, right? But these were short prose stories featuring this really cool hero, a hero that we had not seen, or the likes of which we had not seen before. This character, this writer, invented what we know now as the sword and sorcery genre, with stories like Conan the Barbarian and Kull the Conqueror, and all these really cool things. And so basically it's a dude dressed in a loincloth, carrying a sword in a super prehistoric time period. He's fighting dinosaurs and lizard people and going and he's a morally ambiguous hero. So he's not always saving the day. He might be doing something for, personal reasons. And all along the way, he is meeting beautiful women and falling in love with them. If that's how you want to put that. And these are his stories. So like I said, today we've got a few different books, courtesy of Titan Comics, to showcase all of these different types of stories. And so I'm going to start with, something that's a little bit closer to what we might have seen in the original years. And that is this book that just came out on September 2nd. This is called The Tower of the Elephant. And this is an illustrated Conan story written by Robert E. Howard himself. Now, Robert Howard actually passed in the early 1930s, but this is actually one of the original Conan stories that he wrote for Weird Tales magazine, one of 21 short stories that he wrote. And this is actually illustrated by Valentine Secher. And so what we get is kind of like a nice cross between, the prose stories of yesteryear and, the comic stories of present day. And so you can see it's very wordy because, again, this is prose. You need all of the description that you get in order to set the scene. And then Valentine Secher here really beautifully paints these illustrations that you see in the book. Now, The Tower of the Elephant, like I said, is one of the more famous Conan stories. It's one that I had not read prior to getting this edition in my hands. And honestly, I hope that all of the original Robert Howard Conan stories get printed in this sort of format with these illustrations. I just love this. Is like, I don't know, I guess it's kind of like reading a children's book, but it's an adult book. And that makes it even cooler. I mean, you got Conan fighting lions. He's in this tower. People are trying to, sneak in, get this treasure. And here's Conan fighting monstrous spiders. And just look at that. It's beautiful. So the Tower of the Elephant, like I said, it came out on September 2nd. It is in stores right now, thanks to Titan Comics, which is a United Kingdom-based publisher. I'm really excited about them. So this is an example of one of the earliest Conan stories, but with a little bit of a modern twist. But let's talk about some of the things that came later. So, of course, Robert Howard does all of these short stories, passes away, and then, his estate basically licenses the rights to Conan, this character, for use in a bunch of different ways. You may have seen the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. You may have seen the Conan the Adventurer cartoon like I did. But most people who are super familiar with Conan know him from these comics. These are the original comics years. This is an example of that. This is volume 6 of these omnibus that Titan Comics has been putting out. These stories were originally published by Marvel Comics, and for my money, this is probably the best way to collect them. Now, Conan, like I said, is a sort of morally ambiguous character. He's not always on the side of good. There are some things that he's doing that you don't necessarily want your kids seeing, but that stuff is sort of toned down for these Marvel comics because this is still in the age of the Comics Code Authority. So if you want a Conan story that you don't mind your kid looking over your shoulder at, I think this is it, the original comics years or Marvel years. This volume 6 collects the entire run by Michael Fleischer with art by Big John Buscema, one of the storied names, most storied artists at Marvel or in Marvel history. So really cool stuff there. I'm going to briefly flip through this to show you an example of some of the stuff that you'll see. Again, this character is like the beginning of the sword and sorcery genre. And there are other characters like Red Sonja and Kull the Conqueror that sort of come out of this universe and these writings that you're probably very familiar with. What I like about these Conan comics is that there is a very long history of Conan having just the best artists in the world on it. I don't know what it is about Conan that just brings the best out of every artist, but again, you're seeing these comics edited by Jim Owsley, assistant editor, who we now know as Christopher Priest. But you're seeing these comics with just some of the most amazing art ever. Like, I'm looking at this in 2025, and it holds up really well. And like I said, Conan is generally a morally ambiguous character. He's not always on the side of good, or at least not good for good's sake. There's often like a beautiful woman as a love interest, a affection object, I would call her maybe. And there's a whole bunch of good action. Either he's fighting people, he's fighting monsters, and there's all sorts of really cool stuff. Now, I also love that this is from the era where most comics are telling a complete story in one issue. And so you get a lot of different little mini adventures the more you thumb through an omnibus like this. And like I said, these were originally published by Marvel Comics, and so you may even see Marvel characters making a quick appearance in here. Like, for example, this volume 6 ends with a story called What If Conan Were Trapped in the 20th Century? And so Conan finds himself in like 1980s in the South Bronx. And I'll just show you that. Captain America makes an appearance as well. But here's Conan, in modern days, fighting the bodybuilders and stuff. but like he quickly learns this guy, like, nah, this is not whatever you think is savage. I'm way more savage than that. And then they're on his side. And so really cool stuff. Look at this. Conan slicing Captain America with a sword. Really fun stuff. I think like I said, for me, I think the best way to get into these Conan stories is through the original comics omnibus collections, because Conan can be a little bit of an adult character, and I'm not always in the mood for adult stories. So there we go. That's Conan Volume 6. I believe all 5 of the previous volumes are still in print, but hurry up and get them while you can. This one came out on August 12th. It is in stores right now. All right, now I talked about how the Marvel comics are Conan for a little bit of a toned down audience, but at the same time as the toned down Marvel stories, we were also getting Conan stories in a magazine format. And that magazine was called The Savage Sword of Conan. Now, I don't have any of the original Savage Sword stories in front of me, but this is a brand new relaunch of The Savage Sword of Conan. And I believe they started in 2023. And this is a magazine that they put out. This collection contains the first 3 issues of the Savage Sword of Conan magazine. And what you get in the Savage Sword of Conan is this is Conan unfiltered. So this book is absolutely made with the adult reader in mind. Like I said, the things that you want to look out for in a Conan book, if you're a parent like I am, or you just have different sensibilities, Conan is generally going to be fighting, like, sometimes they're demon spirits, sometimes there are, just random animals, creatures, like big fantasy type things. But another big theme of Conan stories is there's always some object of Conan's interest, and he's got a way with the ladies, apparently. And so you've got to look out for scenes of nudity and some sexuality. Some are a little bit more graphic than others. Like, there's definitely a page coming up that I'm going to skip here. Let's find it so that I know where I am. Okay. Getting there. I skipped it. But what's cool about this is the Savage Sword of Conan magazine, you are getting shorter stories. And with these shorter stories, you're still getting that long tradition of some of the best art in comics, period. They're in black and white. And somehow these artists are flexing their skills even more in black and white. Like I said, definitely some adult themes. There's a lot of gore here that you don't necessarily get in other Conan stories. But that's what I like about these, or like about Conan in general, is that artists absolutely bring their A game for these stories. And you're getting short stories by Jim Zub, who is the current writer on Conan the Barbarian, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And then we're getting Solomon Kane stories and, all these different things. So if you love that world and these types of characters, then you'll love the Savage Sword of Conan. And like I said, this is amazing just to see from an art standpoint. Like, this issue looks like it's all done in pen and ink drawings by Richard Pace. And that is insane. Shout out to Tyler Smith, who is working on the lettering on this one. But just this type of art you just don't see every day in comics, and that is amazing. Like, look at this, the horses, the people with spots on them. It's just really cool. But yeah, so traditionally you will see Conan stories in 2 ways. You'll see them in these Savage Sword magazines, which, by the way, I'm looking at Savage Sword Volume 1, but Savage Sword Volume 3 actually comes out really soon. Look out for that on October 7th. You can pre-order it pretty much everywhere books are sold. But you'll see these Savage Sword magazines, and then you'll see actual comics coming out on a monthly basis. And that is where we will pick things up with Conan the Barbarian, the graphic novel collection. This actually has the first 3 volumes of Conan. And this book, this is in a slipcase. So you can see all 3 of the first volumes of Conan. This also comes out on October 7th. So you can grab this and The Savage Sword of Conan Volume 3. And this has some really cool stuff with it. So you're getting 3 volumes of Conan the Barbarian, which is a brand new title that's ongoing right now with Jim Zub as the writer. So Volume 1 is called Bound in Blackstone. Volume 2 is Thrice Marked for Death. Doug Braithwaite handling the majority of art duties on Volume 2. And then Volume 3, The Age Unconquered, with Raphael Delator on the bulk of the artwork, as he was for Volume 1. Now, these Conan the Barbarian stories are actually still ongoing. Like I said, I've got the slipcase for the first 3 volumes right there. But we also have, there's a Volume 5 or Volume 4 that's out, and this is Volume 5, which is upcoming. Volume 5 is already out as well. Volume 5 came out August 12th. So you can get the slipcase and then grab Volumes 4 and 5 as well. With the newer Conan the Barbarian run, I would say is almost like a perfect cross between the sort of stories you would get from the Marvel Comics years and what you might get in a Savage Sword of Conan magazine. So you're getting the beautiful art, you're getting it in full color, but you're also getting more maturely themed stories. And it's not always about nudity or sexuality. A lot of these are marked for maturity because of the violence. Like there's, people getting slashed with swords and all sorts of stuff. But this volume 5, has some amazing art. That's Doug Braithwaite on the chapter I just looked at. But there are a lot of great artists, and sometimes you can tell the difference between different artists, and sometimes you cannot. Like I said, as far as the content rating is concerned, I would say these are properly marked as being for mature readers. This volume 5 with issues 17 through 20 wasn't super bad as far as from a nudity standpoint. Volume 1 has a touch, but Volume 2 just sees Conan sort of being haunted by a topless woman. So definitely not a book that I would buy for kids or, even your teenagers. I guess it just depends on your sensibilities. But for those of you who are, more mature, I won't even take the chance on thumbing through Volume 2 because I don't remember what's on what pages. And there's Volume 3. For those of you who want, just love seeing Conan and getting even the way this splash page is done. It's like a throwback to a bygone era that some of us don't wish had gone by. So I love that. I mean, even down to the paper they're printed on. These things just look amazing. Titan Comics is doing a great job. So like I said, Titan Comics now has the license to tell new Conan stories, and they've been doing that for, over 25 issues now. And, they have the rights to reprint all the old stories that you might have missed out on from Marvel, The Savage Sword of Conan, Omnis. There's a lot that you can get for your bucks. By the way, if you buy this Conan slipcase, it also comes with these 3 exclusive art prints. So we've got this one by Dan Panosian. We've got one here by Roberto Delator. And another painted by Roberto Delator. So really cool. These are the covers for each of the collections as well, by the way. So a lot of great Conan content is out there courtesy of Titan Comics. And I want to say thank you to the team at Titan for allowing me to preview them for you. If you are interested in ordering any of these, you can grab them from my channel affiliate, Panel Bound Comics. They are the best place to go for these collected editions, especially these bigger volumes like the omnibus, because you'll save a lot of money They package them way more securely than someone like Amazon would. And you get a lot of bang for your buck. They have great customer service. So check out Panelbound Comics. You can use my coupon code to save yourself $2 at checkout. Or if you're buying 4 books or more, you can use the code BJKicks, ship it together, to save 5% on your whole order and have it shipped in a nice, secure package. So again, huge thanks to Titan Comics for sending these over for review. And I'll see you guys in another video real soon. Until then, stay safe, stay awesome, and read something dope today. Peace.